All right, let's talk about turning ideas into action. Today, we're creating the ultimate blueprint by finally sorting out 5 words we all use, but maybe don't fully understand: approach, strategy, method, technique, and tactic. Right? We throw these words around constantly in project planning, in business, even just when we're trying to learn a new hobby. But what really separates them? A lot of the time, we just use them like they all mean the same thing. And honestly, that can lead to some really fuzzy plans and, actions that don't quite hit the mark.
So here's the big takeaway right up front. These are not just synonyms. Think of them as a ladder that lets you climb all the way from a big abstract idea down to a very specific, concrete action. So let's climb down that ladder together, step by step. Okay, so let's get into this framework. We're calling it a ladder of ideas for a reason. It gives us a real structure, a way to connect that big picture thinking with what we actually do on the ground.
And what's really cool is where this model actually comes from. It was originally developed for teaching, to help educators figure out how to structure their lessons. But the logic behind it is just so solid, you can apply it to pretty much anything. We're going to build it out piece by piece, and you'll see just how powerful it is. So we have to start at the very top of the ladder. This is the most abstract level, but it's also the most important. We're talking about the approach. This is your core philosophy. Your approach is basically your point of view. It's not a plan, not at all. It's your belief system. It's the answer to the biggest question. Why are we even doing this? It's the lens you look through for the entire project. So to make this a little more real, let's stick with that teaching example. You could have a student-centered approach, which is the belief that people learn best by doing and discovering things on their own. Or you could have a teacher-centered approach, which says, nope, the most efficient way to learn is when an expert just gives you the information directly. See? 2 completely different philosophies, and they're going to lead to totally different actions. Let's try an analogy we can use for this whole explainer: building a house. Your approach is deciding what a home even means to you. Forget about blueprints for a second. First, you have to decide, is this house meant to be a private fortress for your family? Or is it going to be an open, welcoming space for the community and for entertaining? That one philosophical choice is going to shape every single decision that comes after. Okay, let's take one step down the ladder. This is where that philosophy starts to take some real shape. We're at the master plan, or what we call the strategy. So a strategy flows right from your approach. If the approach was the why, then the strategy is the what. It's still a pretty high level, still a bit conceptual, but it gives you that broad outline for how you're actually gonna achieve your goal. And according to our source material, a really solid strategy has these 4 key parts. First, you define exactly what you want to achieve. Then, you consciously pick your guiding philosophy, your approach. After that, you outline the big, necessary steps. And finally, you decide how you're going to measure success. It's the whole master plan. Back to our house. If your approach was open space for community, well, your strategy might be to build a modern open concept bungalow. But if your approach was fortress for privacy, your strategy might be to build a classic Victorian house with lots of separate, defined rooms. The strategy is what defines the overall form that's going to bring your philosophy to life. All right, we've got our philosophy, we've got our master plan. Now it's time to get practical. It's time to open up the toolbox and pick our method. I love this little comparison because it just nails the difference. A strategy is a plan of operation. That's the thinking part. A method is a way in achieving something. That's the doing part. The method is the bridge that connects your concept to the real world. So, a method is basically a systematic procedure. Think of it like a proven recipe you follow to get a specific part of your strategy done. A strategy might have a few big steps, but a method is the detailed how-to for each one of those steps. And just look at these examples. If your strategy is to teach something directly, well, your chosen method might be a lecture. If your strategy is all about discovery, your methods might be a discussion, a simulation, or some brainstorming. It's all about choosing the right tool, the right method for the job at hand. So in our house analogy, the method is the actual construction plan. You've already decided on a Victorian house. That's the strategy. Now the methods are the specific established processes you're going to use to build it. Traditional bricklaying for the outside, installing a truss system for the roof, following a standard wiring plan. These are the practical, get-it-done procedures. All right, let's zoom all the way in. We're at the most detailed, the most personal level of action. This is where individual skill and personal style really come into play. We're talking about technique and tactic. Okay, this one is a subtle difference, but it's super important. A technique is a specific, skillful way you carry out a method. It's all about how you do it. A tactic, on the other hand, is your own unique style when you apply that technique. It's the personal flair that only you can bring. Let's finish up the analogy. The method is bricklaying. The technique might be using a special Flemish bond to make the corners stronger and look better. That's a professional skill. But your tactic? That's the unique way you hold your trowel or the faster rhythm you have for laying bricks, something specific to you that still gets the job done perfectly. It's your personal signature on the work. So there we have it. We've climbed all the way down the ladder from the huge abstract philosophy to the tiniest personal action. Now let's put it all together and look at that final blueprint. And here it is, the whole system. You can see how it all just flows downwards. Your why, the approach, determines your what, the strategy. Then that strategy is brought to life through the how, the methods. And those methods are carried out using specific techniques and your own personal tactics. You know, this quote just sums it all up perfectly. A strategy without a method is just a dream. It's a nice idea that never actually happens. It's the methods that make a strategy real, and it's the techniques and tactics that give it that final touch of craftsmanship and character. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Think about a project you're on right now, or a skill you're trying to learn, or some big goal you have. Are your day-to-day actions really aligned with your methods? Are those methods actually serving your bigger strategy? And most important, is that strategy a true reflection of your core approach, your why? Now that you have this model, where in your life can you build a better blueprint for success?